Hello friends, this is Christian Wiese. Today's title is Mindfulness to the Rescue. So for those who have seen these videos before, I think you know the message that the chasing after enlightenment is not so useful, that instead we should embrace the light here and now and just should realize that sometimes we may have a little catching up to do, and that's where mindfulness comes in. Sometimes we are the self in capital letters, which in my new book, Breaking Free, I call serenity, the silence of mind, as energy, the energy within that starts bubbling up when we are connected. Love, the heart-centered energy, and lastly the flow, the absolute accordance with the outside world and its flow. I claim everybody has access to that, but as I said, sometimes we are disconnected. Sometimes the self that we are born with, our story, our self-identity, takes over again. And I argue there are really two things that we should be mindful of. One, the illusion, the time when the self tells a story that we believe and are unable to look through the plot. It's pretty easy when it's those negative occasions, such as participating in gossip, undermining somebody, drinking too much. You know the stories of everything that supposedly is negative. But it also happens on the positive side, sometimes, especially when we run after enlightenment. That's often when we actually escape from what is within. So I'd argue we need to do both. Always have an eye out for the breakthrough when we literally look through the self and at that moment are connected to the higher energies, but also to the energy links, where it takes multiple breakthroughs. So the story keeps repeating itself. Like when we fall in love with the wrong person, and we do it so often until we realize that something is not quite right there, or, as I said, chasing after enlightenment as an escape. There's a beautiful quote from J. Krishnamurti that I saw in one of his videos, which I think is really powerful. He says, when you are aware that you are unaware, you in fact are aware. Now let's think about this. So the idea being, when we are unconscious and the energy just flows through us, there's very little we can do. But the moment when we get conscious of the fact that we are unconscious, that is already a tremendous learning opportunity. Now we might be able to jump off the train, or we might not be able to jump off this train. Whether we do or not is often an extent of the pain body that we carry inside. But nevertheless, at that moment, when we become aware that we're unaware, there's already a big change that takes place within. I also in prior videos used that quote from Viktor Frankl, which once again is very relevant here. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now this is beautiful on many levels, especially his last point, that there is both growth and freedom. And that really speaks to the difference between breaking free from the illusion and breaking free from an energy link. When you break free from an energy link, there is actual growth. Because next time around, when you meet that energy link again, you will be transformed. You will choose differently. You will become conscious of the fact that you're unconscious. But then there are also those times when we become still, when we connect with those higher powers, and at that moment are able to break free from self, the personality that we identify with at that very moment. I would say to anybody that when you have reached that stage of awakening, the big choices no longer scare you, because you just go within and you become part of that stillness, and the answer always appears. Outside, the angels are connecting and in a sense tell us what the consequences are. So the big decisions shouldn't scare you. The small trifles, that is where you will probably be disappointed. Because once you start arguing that you always should be aware, that you always should be conscious, chances are that is the pain body speaking. Chances are that is the self that wants to be enlightened. So I do believe there's a little bit of a yin and yang, but the big breakthrough has already taken place for many of us, I would argue. There was a very interesting brain study that I came across. I think it's really important. So what they did was they asked people to fill out a questionnaire, and they wanted to measure how many points you got right and how many mistakes you made. But they actually wanted to measure something very different, but the participants didn't know that. So then they said that in between there was a malfunctioning of the equipment. They said, all right, the next 5 questions, we can't monitor whether you're right or not, but nevertheless, just do it. Well, of course, they knew what was going on, and of course they measured the brain activity. And it turned out that for those people who cheated, there was that battle of good and evil in the frontal lobe, where the decision making takes place. But those were the ones who decided to cheat. Whereas those who didn't cheat, there was no activity whatsoever. So it was almost like, am I stupid? Why would I lie in a stupid test? Or thou shalt not cheat in an experiment. Whatever it was that got the people who were honest about their responses, there was literally no fight of good and evil going on in their brain. And I think it's important because it speaks to the energy link. Every time when you struggle with a decision, even if you do the right thing, chances are that decision will be repeated in the future, because the very fact that you're still evaluating, the very fact that you're still battling to make the right choice means you haven't completely broken free from that energy. Whereas when you have the insight, when you have looked through the working of the self, it just happens kind of automatically. So to sum it all up, mindfulness to the rescue. Enjoy the light, be part of the light, but don't mind either that from time to time you have to revisit certain scenes. It does get easier. So that is my conclusions. I hope it helped. Until next time, bye.